Since the recent cancellation of Tyron Woodley versus Leon Edwards at UFC London, the postponing of the entire event, there seems to have been a reignition in Colby Covington versus Tyron Woodley, and I am all on fucking board. This is the fight I want to see. This is the fight all of the fans want to see, and I understand that Leon Edwards is probably going to get a shit end of the deal in this entire situation. The event has been postponed. Colby Covington was offering originally to take on Tyron Woodley at short notice. Either way, they're now going to postpone the event, and Tyron Woodley has made it very clear now that he is only interested in Colby Covington, and he's going to divert all of his focus onto Colby Covington. Leon Edwards is somewhere at home crying right now, I'm sure, and I know Leon Edwards. This is a very tough situation, and you seem to be fucked over more than any other fighter on the roster consistently. You've won 8 in a row. I completely understand. But the reality of the situation is, Leon Edwards, no one cares about you versus Woodley. We care about Colby versus Woodley because that's the fight we originally wanted to see not too long ago. Before Woodley lost to Usman, people wanted Woodley to beat Usman so he would get Woodley versus Covington. Before Usman even got the title shot, people wanted to see Covington versus Woodley. Before Covington even fought fucking RDA, people wanted to see Covington versus Woodley. This has been the fight on everyone's minds for the past 3 or 2 years, and I've been looking forward to this for a very long time, and it seems like now we have a perfect chance to make this fight happen and make an improvement on what already was not the best main event in the world in Tyron Woodley versus Leon Edwards. Tyron Woodley versus Colby Covington is by far a better main event than Tyron Woodley versus Leon Edwards. I would love to see that fight made next, and it seems like both teams are ready to agree, because Colby Covington said recently that now everyone was agreeing to the fight. Now they're just going to postpone it, and now it looks like Colby Covington's going to get a bit more of a camp to take on Tyron Woodley. I recently made a video as soon as Colby Covington called out Tyron Woodley on short notice, saying that Colby Covington would lose to Tyron Woodley on short notice because it was under a week's notice, and Colby Covington's biggest asset is his cardio, which obviously is not going to be tip-top 100% on 6 days' notice. So I picked Woodley to win on a full camp and on a postponed fight that may be in 6 or 7 weeks. Who knows? Colby Covington would completely destroy Tyron Woodley, and there isn't a clearer thought in my fucking mind. I understand that some Woodley fans like to believe the theory that Tyron Woodley's soul left his body on the night of Kamaru Usman's fight. We watched him get completely ragdolled. His soul did not leave his body, okay? It really didn't. Like, I know that's a very valid excuse, Tyron Woodley, and you can make that excuse all you want, but souls don't leave bodies. That's just reality. You got ragdolled around the ring by a superior wrestler who is Division 2 level. Yes, he's a very large man, but guess who's also a very large welterweight? Colby Chaos Covington. He's actually one of the bigger welterweights in the UFC. Maybe other than Kamaru Usman, because Kamaru Usman versus Colby Covington was a dead even fight before the very end of the 5th round. I'm telling you this. Colby Covington would annihilate Tyron Woodley. And I really do believe that. Now, Tyron Woodley does have a chance. Tyron Woodley always has a chance. That's what's gotten through Tyron Woodley his entire career, is that big right hand. He can land it and he can knock you out. And that tends to happen in a lot of Tyron Woodley's fights. Except for recently. Tyron Woodley hasn't knocked anyone out since Robbie Lawler to take the welterweight belt. What's this knockout power I'm hearing about? You know what I'm saying? I'm just feeling like maybe Colby Covington could survive that power. If Wonderboy could survive that power. If Darren Till could survive... Well, Darren Till got knocked down, but either way, he wasn't KO'd. He was still alive on the floor. It took a submission to really put him out of there. Either way, Darren Till took the shot and was on the floor. I reckon if Colby Covington's on the floor with Tyron Woodley, he's not going to get dash choked and elbowed the shit out of. He's going to get back up and he's going to put it back on Tyron Woodley. I feel as though Colby completely annihilates him. I could not pick a worse matchup for Tyron Woodley out of anyone in the division other than maybe Kamaru Usman. Colby Covington's Kamaru Usman, just Wyatt basically. Wyatt focuses less on power, more on cardio and volume. That's basically what it is between Colby Covington and Kamaru Usman. And I actually feel like the fact that Colby Covington throws less power shots and focuses more on volume punches and cardio and pacing makes him a worse matchup for Woodley than Kamaru Usman is. Because Usman throws big power shots. If you're a counter puncher like Woodley and you see a guy in Kamaru Usman loading up huge shots against you, it's your fucking dream. If you're a counter striker with vicious knockout power and the guy in front of you is loading up with big powerful shots that you can see coming a mile away, that's your fucking dream matchup. You're going to land that counter strike all day. He didn't even land it on Kamaru Usman. Okay? He didn't really land it on Kamaru Usman. He landed it a couple times, nothing really happened. Usman went back to beating the shit out of him. I feel as though with Colby, those opportunities are not going to be there. Kamaru Usman was able to be hit in that fight with Tyron Woodley on occasion because Kamaru Usman was loading up every single punch, telegraphing every single punch, and trying to KO Tyron Woodley. Covington is not going to try and KO Tyron Woodley. He won't commit to anything at all. He's going to back Woodley up against the cage. He's not going to throw big telegraphing shots. He's going to throw volume punches, and Tyron Woodley's not going to know what to commit to. He's got that one big shot, and he's only got that big shot a couple of times a fight, a couple of times around. When you have a guy like Kamaru Usman, who's throwing everything from the fucking shoulders at you, you can see those opportunities a little bit clearer. But with Colby Covington, with the threat of the takedown against the cage as well, this isn't just one of them Wonderboy fights where the guy in front of you's just going to be looking to strike, and you know he's going to be looking to strike. And the same with Darren Till, so you can find that shot quite easily. Colby Covington's got a mix of weapons he can throw at you when your back's against the cage. One of them's a double leg, one of them's a single leg. There are many more. His volume punching against the cage is a thing of beauty, and I feel like with Tyron Woodley as a counter puncher, he won't commit to anything. I think he's going to freeze up against the cage. He won't want to unleash his full power because he doesn't know what Colby Covington is committing to in the first place. And when he does think that Colby's going to commit, Colby's going to do what he always does. Sort you out with a couple punches in the clinch or against the cage, and then he's going to shoot a takedown when goings get rough. When you start throwing back, when he starts loading up a little bit, that's when he makes the level change. And I feel like if Kamaru Usman can ragdoll Tyron Woodley for 5 rounds, Colby Covington's going to do it exactly the same way. And now that this fight has been postponed and Colby Covington has been given some time, he wins. He just wins. If you give Colby Covington a couple of weeks to get his cardio base to 100%, he's going to beat Tyron Woodley. You know? That camp for Colby Covington to get him back in shape and get him back on form for a Tyron Woodley fight means everything. And here's another thing I want to talk about with Tyron Woodley. The fact that he is now having another turnaround for a fight camp is a bad thing for Tyron Woodley. When you're a younger guy, I like seeing activity. I like seeing maybe a fight get cancelled if it's a jump too soon, and then you going back into training camp for another fight, because to me it shows me this guy's getting double the knowledge, double the learning, and he's going to come back improved completely. Now that that fight's been cancelled, he's going to basically get double of a camp. When you're an aging fighter and a fighter who's had as many injuries as Tyron Woodley has had, getting through fight camp is a blessing. You know, Tyron Woodley was probably so happy a week out from his fight with Leon Edwards. Thank God I'm still in the fucking fight. I could be injured. I could have broken my hand like I did against Robbie Lawler. I could have torn my labrum but still had to go through with it. That would be a terrible situation. Tyron Woodley is probably feeling blessed that he managed to get through a fight camp without any major injuries at the ripe old age of 37. I think he's 37. He might be 30. He might be 38. I don't even know how old Tyron Woodley is, but he's somewhere between that range, and that is not a good range as a fighter. It really isn't. And now he's going to have to go through a whole different camp, and who knows what he's going to get injured in the process. That's a very risky thing. Colby Covington, on the other hand, is in his prime. He rarely gets injured, and if he does get injured, he shows up anyway, much like Woodley did against Damian Maia. But Colby Covington, he barely gets injured. He's always showing up in good form. He never seems to have problems with his hands. He's coming off a bit of a bad beatdown with Kamaru Usman. But people talk about the jaw injury of Colby Covington. The guy was walking around talking fine 5 days later. You know? I don't think the jaw injury was as bad as a lot of people made out. I think I made it out a little bit bad as well because we saw obviously the fracture line. But I think the jaw can break in many different ways. So you could have a broken jaw, but it can be broken in a varying intensity of ways. You know, you could have it completely dislocated from the socket. You could have it fucking hanging off one end. You could have it spun around like James Vick on a regular basis. Or you could maybe just have a little dent. Little dent in the jaw. Heal that one up. You can still talk just fine. Colby Covington didn't even have his mouth wired shut or didn't even have one of those straps on to keep his jaw in place. He seemed okay. And I feel like he's going to get back in there and beat Tyron Woodley. Volume against the cage beats Woodley. Rory McDonald did it. Okay? Rory McDonald did that perfectly. Volume against the cage. Every time Tyron Woodley looked to commit with a big counter punch to try and make Rory pay for the volume punches against the cage, Rory just shot in on a takedown or engaged in the clinch. Jake Shields did exactly the same thing, and that wasn't the best version of Jake Shields I've ever seen in my life. Jake Shields just tried his best to smother Woodley against the cage, and it works. Colby Covington's better than Jake Shields. He just is, and Tyron Woodley is not as good as he is now as he was back then. He just isn't. That's just a reality of age. He's getting older and older every single time, and now he's just not got this fight with Leon Edwards. He's only going to be older, whether it be weeks, whether it be months, by the time he fights Colby Covington. I want to see this fight made next. I think Colby Covington would destroy him over 5 rounds and probably make him... I think he would probably finish Tyron Woodley. Because there was a look on Woodley's face many times in the Kamaru-Usman fight where Usman probably could have finished Tyron Woodley. Where Woodley was on the ground, he was holding on, he was looking up at the clock, and he was just like, fucking, get me out of here. And if Kamaru-Usman was a finisher, he would maybe have gone for the finish with Tyron Woodley. Colby Covington, just out of a moral standpoint, would go for the finish against Tyron Woodley if shown the opportunity that Kamaru-Usman was shown many times throughout the fight. He will go for that just to ridicule Tyron Woodley. Okay? I just like his chances. I couldn't pick a better guy. If he has a full camp, he destroys Woodley. I couldn't pick a better guy to beat Tyron Woodley than Colby Covington. You're asking me. We're going to give Tyron Woodley an opponent. By the way, he likes to back guys up to the cage. He's a great wrestler, maybe the best in the division. We still don't know between him and Kamaru-Usman. We can assume they're dead even, at least. Colby's better or they're dead even. I'm willing to concede that they're dead even on the wrestling department because I watched neither of them choose to engage whatsoever, which means they must know that this is a 50-50 fight if we start engaging in the wrestling. Okay? So I'm thinking they're maybe even. If Colby Covington is even 3/4 of the wrestler that Kamaru-Usman is, he's going to beat Tyron Woodley. What Usman did to Woodley, after seeing that happen, Colby will do that shit. He would. Maybe there won't be as many slams, but the cage control is going to be worse. It's going to be a little bit more tiring. There's going to be more takedowns rather than big slams into controlling positions. And Woodley's going to have to work a bit more. In those rounds with Kamaru-Usman, Woodley was gassing out and he wasn't even doing anything. He was being thrown around and not exerting any energy whatsoever and still somehow gassing out in those situations. Yes, he was looking to stuff some takedowns now and again, but either way, it wasn't long before Tyron Woodley was gassing out. When you're fighting Colby Covington and you're wrestling with Colby Covington, you're made to do so many more engagements and moves that you wouldn't have to do against a guy in Kamaru-Usman. Usman's going to push you to the cage. He's going to use all of the size that he has because that's his biggest attribute in the division. That size, that looming figure, he's going to get on top of you. He's going to lean, he's going to put his weight on top of you. He's going to drag you down. And he's not going to do much though. He's going to stay there, lean on you. Hopefully the ref doesn't step in and break us apart. And I'm just going to pepper you with body shots the entire time. Or I'm going to use one big slam and I'm going to sit there on the ground for the rest of the round and do absolutely nothing to you. With Colby, if you give him an inch, he'll take a mile. If you give him that first takedown, he'll take the next 10. Like it only gets worse and worse. And now that they're looking like they're going to delay this fight and make it in the US, Covington versus Woodley, it's just a recipe for disaster for Woodley, man. It really is. Woodley could land the big shot, don't get me wrong. Obviously, Woodley has power. He could land a big shot, but that's his only chance. I don't see him going the distance and beating Colby Covington. He would have to finish Colby. He would. He'd have to finish Colby Covington. There's no way he goes the distance with Colby. I honestly think Colby, if you take out the power from Woodley, Colby's a better striker than Woodley as well. Because if you look back in Woodley's career, people say, he strikes with the best of them. He lands one punch. He landed 2 against Wonderboy. Won him the fight off 2 10-8 rounds with it. You know? He didn't land it against Usman. What happened? Didn't land it against Rory McDonald. What happened? Didn't land it against fucking whoever else there is. Jake Shields. What happened? He lost. If he doesn't land that big bomb to at least secure himself some 10-8 rounds or get the finish, he's not going to win. And I think Colby's good enough now in the striking department, especially after what we saw between him and Kamaru-Usman. That was a spectacle, and I thought I had Colby Covington up 3 rounds to 1 in that fight. I think if Colby Covington, listen, maybe in an alternate universe, if some things go a different way and that jaw doesn't get fractured in the 3rd round, maybe Colby just runs away with that fight. Maybe if Usman doesn't fake the groin shot, doesn't fake the eye poke, who knows? Maybe Colby runs away with that fight against Usman. We could be looking at a completely different situation in the division right now, but as for right now, Leon Edwards, fuck off. Just for a bit. I know it sucks, Leon Edwards, because you get this done to you a lot, but just for the good of the MMA fan right now, Covington versus Woodley is the next fight to make. Please make it happen. Covington would probably destroy him in a multitude of ways. Woodley is too okay to put himself against the cage, and Covington's goal is to get you to the cage. You gotta make Colby go backwards. Woodley makes no one go backwards. Woodley makes no one but himself go backwards in the cage. That's Colby's MO. You've done half of Colby's job for you. Half of Colby's job, and the big difficulty with what Colby has to do in the cage, is he has to first get you to back up and respect his striking. If you're going to start the fight, Woodley, and immediately back up to the cage, you've done the difficult part of Colby's job. Now it's time to do what he does best. Combinations. Every time you try and load up for a punch, he's going to shoot for a takedown, or he's going to force the clinch, which means you can't unload full power because all of your shots are going to be completely smothered by him closing the distance. Recipe for disaster for Woodley. It really is. And I also don't understand the talks from Woodley. Listen, Woodley's going crazy again. It's just, he's not scared of you. He called you out on a day's note, like 6 days notice. Why is he scared? How could he be scared of you? He's not faking injuries. He had to have a fucking, whatever it is in the face. What are they called? He had to have that shit redone. I can't remember what they're called. Let me think about what they're called, because I actually will get this if I actually think about it for a second. Nasal. He had something in his nose done and fixed, and that's why he didn't fight Woodley the first time. If he's calling you out, he's not scared of you. He fought Usman. Why would he be scared of you, Woodley? I'm scared of Woodley, but I'll take the guy that dominated Woodley for 5 rounds, please. Where does that logic come from? He's not scared of you. He's going to beat you. Okay? And he's going to make the welterweight division great again now that you're whiny, fucking, boring, crying ass all the time in your fucking car non-stop is out of the division. Go Colby Covington. He's going to get it done. And I think he'll actually finish Woodley in the 4th or 5th. See you later. Age is a real thing. Woodley's experienced it, and we can see that every single time he goes out there. Goodbye. Thank you for watching. Click that button there. See you later.